Hey, welcome back to the channel. Today I have a beautiful conversation for you with a coaching client of mine, Viki, and we talk about her beautiful journey of transformation through our sessions together, including how she went from being in self-doubt to really being able to tap into and express her truth. We talk about the power of an intentional self-pleasure practice. And we talk about why self-love and embodiment are so foundational for true lasting transformation. Now, we only have the first half hour of the conversation on video, but we have the full hour-long conversation available over on the podcast. So if you'd like to hear the full thing, please hop over to the Abundant Couples podcast and you can listen to it there. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. All right. Welcome, Viki.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining me today. So what I'd love to talk with you about today is mostly about your journey when it comes to embodiment, self-love, pleasure, how these things have impacted your life. So just as a little introduction, Viki and I have been working together in my coaching program for the last, I'm not sure exactly how long it's been, but 10 sessions. And yeah, it's been so beautiful to work with you. And I'm excited for you to just share your journey and hopefully inspire other women to, dive in to their own journey.
Yeah, I hope that I do inspire some women in that because, it is like, even looking back, it's like, wow, what a shift and what a change. And I am just very grateful to be in this spot. So, yeah, for sure. Someone looking for a change, someone looking for just a moment or a nudge to sort of change their direction. Like, this was exactly what I needed anyway.
Yeah.
So
beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, then let's start with, before we started working together, going back as long as you'd like, where were you at?
Yeah.
What were you feeling or what wasn't working for you?
Yeah, for sure. And I just realized, like, kind of coming here, I'm like, oh yeah, why did I even connect with you, right? And what did my life look like at that point? So yeah, I connected with you after my partner chose to end our relationship, and I wasn't in that space. And that was like, that set me back and kind of was quite confusing for me. And also immediately, because we had chatted before and we had met in a women's retreat before that. And just from that conversation, like, I've wanted to work with you since that very beginning. And with that partner of mine, and that didn't materialize. So as soon as that partnership ended, I was like, I'm going to connect with Cassidy, because I know that what I want is going to be driven by, like, my enthusiasm for life, my wanting to achieve and, like, find things that fit. And I knew that was driven by pleasure. And so I'm like, I think this is where I want to go. So yeah. And oh gosh, like, and it is, like, it totally is, like, what feels good is what you should be going towards. And then in that feeling is like, it's not always, like, super easy, but in that feeling, it's like having all those other tools and navigating through some old programming or, like, old stuff that's hanging around to get through to how you really want to approach life and really want to, like, present in life. So
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. And when you say, going toward what feels good, I'd love to unpack that a little bit because I think there is an important distinction there, right? There's like the easy pleasures of like, the dopamine hit,
Yeah.
like picking up your phone and scrolling social media or, reaching for junk food or whatever, these things that are just that easy dopamine hit.
Yeah.
But we're obviously talking about something different, a different kind of pleasure.
Yeah.
So how do you relate to that pleasure, that like deeper sense of what feels good for you?
Yeah. And like it's I can't remember what session we hit it with, but it's like my purpose of life, right? It's like knowing what that is and moving towards that. So that doesn't come easily, right? But then, like, when you know your purpose kind of needs this thing to happen, and it's like moving towards pleasure in that way. It's just accomplishing that and kind of building the life that you want to live um in that way, because it's not easy, and but it's kind of exciting, and it's like, this is hard, and it matches what feels good on the other side. And yeah, I just have to go that way. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that embodiment really helps to make that distinction between what's that like more surface level pleasure versus what's that like deep, more fulfilling pleasure that's like coming from my deepest truth, right? That like what's truly lighting me up.
Yeah.
For me anyways, practicing embodiment is what really helps me to distinguish that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so many of the practices that we went through sort of made me realize like what embodiment actually is. It's like you walk out and like, oh, now I get that. Because like so much of some therapies that I've been with is just all like in your head. So you're almost just like consciously always thinking about it and trying to think your way through something. But with embodiment, it's like you're just feeling your way, and then you feel the change, and it's like it makes sense not to move towards a behavior that you've done for so long. It just makes more sense. It's like I can't even go that way anymore because I know it just feels right this way because my whole body wants to go that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something I found with embodiment. It's like when you make a shift at the level of your body,
Yeah.
then everything else follows.
Yeah.
You don't need to actively try to change the way you're thinking so much. It kind of happens naturally. Of course, it's helpful to still have some tools for, working with mindset and things like that, but it becomes much easier when first you make the shift in the body.
Yeah.
And I totally get what you mean when like it's hard to describe what embodiment is because that's the thing. It's a feeling, right? It's
Yeah.
it's not an intellectual thing, which always makes my job a little bit tricky when I'm trying to tell people what I do, right? But I guess what we do know is like how embodiment can help us. So I guess I'm curious with you, what have you found as you've done this work with embodiment? What have been the biggest shifts or benefits that you've had from that work?
Yeah, and I think really it has been listening to my body. So in some of the exercises that we've done, when um I am I'm sitting on one pillow, and then you've moved me to like feel into what that other either part of me or person or whatever that I'm trying to experience. It's like even that shift, then all of a sudden your body changes. It's like, oh, okay, like my cells are different. It is really hard to describe. But then you have that awareness kind of right in here, or that sense, because this is a really safe environment and we're cultivating so many things here. And then you walk out the door and then you're in an experience, and then all of a sudden that feeling hits. You're like, oh, I know where this came from. And yeah, this is how I'm going to move forward. Like it carries with you, or it comes with you in the sense of your body, and you just all of a sudden experience it when you're not here, or when you're not in this session kind of running through a program or running through an experience. And then you have to just notice. You have to notice, and then because the truth happens here, it's like you can't even go back. You just can't. You've seen what the truth is, and then you're now in your regular life, and your body sort of tells you what's going on, and you're just like, I can't even fake this. I have to go this way.
Yeah.
Because this is my truth. This is what feels good. And yeah, it just feels awful to fake it. It does feel awful to fake it after you've experienced it.
Yeah.
Like in your cells, like that's the thing. Like every exercise that we did, I know I walked out of here, walked away from the exercise, like feeling a physical change, and fortunately, like I had some driving time, and then all this integration would happen because I would breathe, I would remember, and I had this kind of built-in time to reflect. And yeah, then just the very next day, or like one example, if hopefully we can get to that too, but one example that just happened, it's like, oh yeah, this is like, and then you just really see it. Like you just really see it happening, and your body knows that you need to do something different, and then you just do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's the power of accessing the truth that is always present moment to moment within your body.
Yeah.
And like you said, once you tap into that truth and that inner wisdom, you can't ignore it anymore.
You can't.
Which is a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And also the hard thing as well. Like you can't ignore it. And if you do, and I've tried, like you walk away as like, oh, it just felt awful. And yeah, like I just feel awful. And like things do sort of spiral, and you're just like, I know how to make this right. I really do know how to make this right. So either, if the situation presented to be able to reverse what happened, or go back to something, or just know that next time you now know what it feels like to not listen to the truth. So like that doesn't feel so why would you continue to do that?
Yeah.
So then on the next opportunity, just move towards your truth. So
yeah. And the amazing thing is we're always getting these signals from our body, but so many of us are just kind of numb to it. And that's how I used to be as well, like just not paying attention and just not noticing and just feeling this bit of disconnect, but not really knowing why.
Yeah.
And then when I really started tuning into my body, tapping into that inner truth, really just feeling the subtleties of sensation in my body and listening to that, that's when everything started clicking, right? Yeah. It becomes such a beautiful compass.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And this remembering just happened for me, like I have trouble speaking, right? I have trouble speaking about like what I'm feeling, and when I'm not in agreement with what's going on and things like that. So I have a hard time. And we did an exercise where like that feeling came out as breath, but it came out black.
Mm-hmm.
And then and so fully like remember as we were going through the experience, like all of a sudden the change to gold, and now like when I'm not And when I'm in a spot where I'm not speaking up, or I'm not speaking really what I feel, like I can feel that tarry black, and like you can't ignore it. And then it's like, huh, yep, okay, well, this is really the truth, and then that comes out. It's hard. Like, it's hard to go through that. And
Hey, if you want to connect with yourself more deeply, tap into your inner wisdom, and harness the power of your pleasure, then come join me inside my program, Know Your Bliss. The program is open now for enrollment, and it starts on January 29th. Plus, it's only $37, and you get a ton of awesome bonuses when you join now. So click the link in the description to learn more about Know Your Bliss, and I'll see you inside.
and then sort of maybe experience what happens on the other side. But at the end of the day, like, being able to speak and know that I've spoken with integrity and I've spoken with my true self, like, every night, that feels so much better than speaking and, like, not having the words come out in gold, like, highlighting dark and black, and it's like, it just, yeah, it doesn't feel good. So
Yeah, and that's alignment right there. That is alignment when your actions, your words
yeah,
are truly lining up, are coming from a place of truth. All right. I love that imagery of speaking gold. That's really beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was one exercise we did. And then I would say that, like, again, every exercise sort of complemented each other. And, even when I look back and review, it's like, oh, yeah, like, this happened, but then we worked on this, and this helped that. So, in speaking about that, then once we did that exercise, it's just like, well, who speaks that gold? Like, what part of he speaks that gold? And what, like, I know that it's in there, so where is it? And yeah, so then we tapped into, like, what part of me is that? And that's when, like, for me, my love warrior came out, and gosh, she's so brilliant. Like, I love her so much. She's so smart, and, like, just has her shit together. And yeah, yeah. So being able to know that that part of me is always there, and she's the one that speaks with that.
Yeah. And then through embodiment, right? Like feeling the sense of, like, what does it feel like when I'm grounded in this part of me, the love warrior who speaks gold? And when we spend time in that place in an embodied way, your body has that blueprint.
Yeah.
And then when you're out in life and that love warrior is needed, your body remembers. Your body's like, oh, yeah, here's how we tap into that love warrior. Yeah, beautiful. So I'd love to talk about pleasure now, because this has been a big part of our work together.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your pleasure practice.
Yeah.
Maybe, did you have a pleasure practice before, or what was your relationship with that? And then how has that evolved?
Yeah.
And what has that done for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So never really had a pleasure practice previous, right? I knew how to self-pleasure. I had a partner, so, had pleasure there as well. But, like, even self-pleasure was, I didn't really have that practice. So it's like, okay, well, this is part of it, right? And where does all of this good feeling when you're walking through life come from? Well, it comes from pleasure. Like, it really does. And if you don't experience that within your body, like, walking through life, how do you know what it feels like, right? So that flirty feeling, right? Like, that comes from feeling pleasure. And then, like, out in life is like, you know what? I want a little bit of pleasure here. I'm going to flirt. with this puppy dog. I'm going to flirt with these little children. I'm going to flirt with these people that are around me and, make them laugh and smile and feel good. And, talk about fun things or silly things to increase the energy, increase the vibe. And how do you know what any of that feels like, or if you've never tap into pleasure?
Yeah.
That's where it starts, really.
Mhm.
So, I really liked the stepped process of all of that too, right? Is
Just the intentional
Yep.
self-pleasure practice.
Yeah. So, being intentional about it for sure, and knowing what's a yes and what's a no, and like just experimenting, right? And so what does feel good? And um I would say one of the biggest changes now is like when I need a hug, I can just give myself a hug.
Yeah.
And it's like, this feels really good. Because we started that kind of in the beginning, right? Like, what are the little things that feel good? What are the little touches that feel good? And holding my own hand sometimes is like, I just need to, I'm getting through this like project at work and I just need a little bit of love. I need somebody to care about me. I'll scuffle my own hand.
Yeah.
And then you could just, okay, I'm done. You know what? I'm not seeking it from someone else. I can gather it and muster it myself. And yeah, that you gotta be intentional about it. You gotta set space. And I would say what really helped me is creating a space that I felt comfortable in.
Mhm.
And that when I was in that space, like I could drop in. And so it just got easier and easier to drop in to that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And then when I guess like experimenting with like more self-pleasure and orgasm and things like that, it got easier and easier to just be in that space. And then we did exercises on like manifesting while in that space. Oh my God.
Yes.
That was where magic happened and things shifted and like embodiment became real.
Mhm.
Like you could feel it and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, this is real. And I would say like the people that come into my life, my God, I love them. And the experiences I have, like even just at the grocery store, like everything is so much fun. Everything, like, I don't know, just the things that are attracted to me are kind and well intentioned and helpful and meaningful. And I think that like that comes from that magnetism. Yeah. Like that pleasure that you can experience like exudes when you're out there as well. So it is not a coincidence that all these fun things happen to me now more than ever, right? Now more than ever, I know what pleasure feels like. I know where to draw that from. I know where my love warrior gets that from. And, you know, like at one point we talked about habits
Mhm.
and breathing from pussy and that actually became such an easy habit that I didn't even really have to focus on it. Like at first, I know I was intentional and be like, okay, when I do this thing, I'm just gonna stack this other habit on top of it. But even today, like I was kind of breathing from pussy and I was like, oh yeah, that just now happens so easily. Like, yeah, I think about that when I'm walking. I think about that when I'm just anytime I take a deep breath. If it's not in that first breath, it's in that second breath that I pull from pussy and breathe out. Like you're just smelling the trees, and then all of a sudden it's like oh yeah, my breath comes from here. And yeah, such an easy habit to form. And then probably one that is not harder to form, but came like in a little bit more of like, ugh. It's when you're in situations that like are a little bit disturbing, or there's some sort of disturbance in the flow of it. And then to remember like, oh yeah, just breathe from pussy and see what comes out. And then as soon as that happens, like it's incredible. I can't tell you how incredible it is. Like a hard conversation and then the right words come out.
Yeah. Pussy wisdom.
It is.
Yeah.
It really is. And like it's attached to like me noticing that all of a sudden something is wrong in my body. Like, oh yes. Like, so you notice that.
Yeah.
And then you notice like just what doesn't feel good. And then it's like, well, what does feel good? Like we're driven to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
We really are. And if you have that sense of what feels good, it automatically comes when you're in that spot, when you're not feeling good, or when something's not flowing and something feels sticky or prickly. And then it's like, oh yeah, what feels good? Oh yeah, breathing from here feels good. And then, oh, the right things just come out. Funny how that happened.
And that reminds me, that's just something I want to celebrate in you. One big shift that I've witnessed.
Yeah.
Well, there've been a lot of them, but like one that's specific is this ability to speak your truth, and the contrast to the self-doubt that was present when we started working together. That was one of the things that came up in the earlier sessions, was this self-doubt, just kind of feeling like shrinking back from saying what you really mean, and or not wanting to say the wrong thing or hurt somebody. And the way that shifted to just trusting yourself and trusting that I'm going to tap into my truth. I'm going to express my truth.
Yeah.
And when I don't, that's okay. And I'm going to be compassionate with myself, and then speak my truth in the next moment. And that's a really beautiful shift. What a superpower.
Right.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's because like with self-pleasure comes love, right? Like comes love for yourself, like during orgasm, during self-pleasure, like you can't help but not love. Of course, like when you're with a partner, of course you're going to love during that time. And when you're on your own and you're doing self-pleasure, well, who does that love turn towards? Well, it turns towards you, right? So when you have that self-love and you breathe from pussy and know that, well, I love myself and I know what's going to come out is the true part of me, and I'm compassionate. I'm kind. Like I enjoy, I enjoy speaking my truth, but I also enjoy being that in the truth of others as well, and hearing what their truth is too, and knowing that like we don't always have to agree, and that's okay. But when someone speaks their truth, it's like, that's really cool too. We're different, huh?
Yes.
It's really, really that shift happened with self-love for sure. And then like with that comes the belief in yourself, and then it's like, no, I know who I am. And then when you breathe, it's like, yeah, that's who I am. Like the right things came out. And for sure with self-doubt, of course, like what would come out wouldn't be accurate and wouldn't feel good, and probably wouldn't produce the same result. Well, it doesn't produce the same result. And and then when you're just speaking your truth, like the people that come into your life, the people that stay in your life match that as well. So it's like speak your truth and your tribe finds you. like the opportunities find you, the opportunities come up because you create them as well, right? Like that magnetism creates.
Yeah. Speaking of which, so you talked a bit about your self-pleasure practice and you mentioned like bringing in manifesting into your self-pleasure practice. Are there any specific things that you feel that you manifested through your pleasure practice?
Yes, absolutely, for sure. And it is my purpose, right? Like what I want and what I want to continue to do. So, um, having and then being intentional. So, having self pleasure or like that self pleasure, and then orgasming, and then feeling into what is.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Like I said, if you'd like to hear the full version of my conversation with Viki, we go into a bunch of really juicy topics coming up, then make sure you head over to the Abundant Couples podcast. You can find the link in the description or search Abundant Couples in your favorite podcast platform. And while you're at it, make sure you check out Know Your Bliss. I'm so excited for this program and I can't wait to see you inside.